welcome to all of the friends and supporters of DARWIN200 and the Oosterschelde being here tonight. Thank you so much for being part of the DARWIN200 Global Voyage send-off party. So we want to issue a very warm welcome to every single person. We've got 6 brief talks tonight. Starting off, we have the great honour of the first one being by the Lord Mayor of Plymouth. So without further ado, we'll hand over and pass to the Lord Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Plymouth and welcome to the National Marine Aquarium. It's so welcome here and it's so nice to see so many people supporting such a prestigious project like this. You're welcome. I've been told to keep this short, but it's a bit of a geek on this kind of area, so I will do my very best to keep it short. So, welcome to the tall ship Oosterschelde. Fantastic ship, absolutely beautiful. I would love to go to sea on it. I spent 25 years in the Royal Navy, and I'm so jealous of those that are the crew here tonight. So we shut the camera. Anyway, moving on from that. Right, this links back to HMS Beagle some 180 years ago, refitted here in Plymouth, and they made her a little bit better of the ship than she was previously. Her first commission was a bit checkered, but a second commission, taking Darwin on the great expedition, was really important. And I only mention Darwin here because he was 22 years old, and very much like the young people who are going to be on this trip this year, that is absolutely fantastic achievement to drive this forward. We'll move on from that, so I'll start getting really geeky about warships anyway. What it means for the departure of the DARWIN200 from this city. Okay? The city itself has always been historically the hotbed of marine research. We've got the National Marine Aquarium here. We've got the Marine Biological Association here in Plymouth. And we've got the Plymouth Marine Laboratory. In addition to that, the Royal Navy on a regular basis used to go to sea, and I was one of them on submarines taking samples from around the world at different depths in the ocean. So it was really good to build up that kind of information. But to see now this kind of expedition going out there purposefully and with young people, bringing that information together into a global forum and using modern technology to drive that kind of information out to everybody in the world is so important. So it fits so much and so well with Plymouth. So all I can do now is end with the goal. The goal is to engage with millions of students at schools across the planet via a continuous streams of free online activities, research projects, experiments and lectures. I wish you the very best, and I wish I was going with you. Thank you very much.
Well, a very big thank you to the Lord Mayor for that lovely introduction. Also, my talk now is very briefly to give a quick overview. We don't have time to give a detailed overview of the project here tonight. It's such a complicated project, but as you hopefully are aware, we're following Charles Darwin's journey aboard HMS Beagle over 2 years. We're going to every major port that Darwin went to. We have had to adjust the voyage a little bit. We've had to add in some locations that Darwin didn't go to. This is for logistical reasons and other practical reasons. And we aren't going across the Indian Ocean. It was logistically too difficult to organise that. So, but Darwin only stopped very briefly at Oosterschelde and Mauritius. But with those minor differences, we're going to every major place that Darwin made landfall at. Again, we don't have time to go into the project in detail, but very briefly, as you're aware, we're seeing this breathtaking historic tall ship, one of the most beautiful historic ships afloat along this itinerary, to do 3 things in brief. The first objective is we're training the world's best young conservationists. These are called Darwin leaders. They are extraordinary people. They're people that are just born with that burning flame inside of them to change the world. We hope that we're going to give them the skills they need to take forward for the next 50 years to change the world for the better, all across the world, all four corners of the planet, doing amazing projects for the next 50 years. The second objective is making the world's most exciting classroom. So every week for 100 weeks, we're going to be beaming out experiments inspired by Darwin's work, totally free to schools across the planet, with prizes for them to do those experiments and put forward the results. We can do activities, competitions, quizzes, live lectures with conservationists. They can interact and ask questions and answers and so forth. And of course, being live to the ship at different locations around the world, meet the crew, see what the ship's up to, meet the people on the ship, looking at what the Darwin leaders are doing, and so forth. So it's an enormous range of activities every single week for 100 weeks. And then last but not least, we've got 8 really exciting research projects as the ship goes around the world. 4 on board the vessel while it's sailing. A data system uploading air temperature and sea water temperature live by satellite, which would be pretty cool, and photos every week so you can see exactly what's going on. That's all on our interactive map on our site. We've also got a wildlife survey looking for seabirds, whales and dolphins, and seals and sea lions. We're doing a survey for microplastics as well in the seawater, and a really amazing ballooning spider project, which Darwin found these spiders that release threads that fly up into the atmosphere and land. Several landed on the Beagle while it was voyaging, so we're going to be surveying for that too and following in Darwin's footsteps. In the ports, we're also undertaking biodiversity transects and planting thousands of trees in key locations to rebuild the forest that Darwin loved in many places. Also the same with coral transect surveys, looking at coral health and the health of coral reefs in different parts of the world. A pollution solutions project, looking at some of the problems and solutions of pollution. And then last but not least, towards the end of the voyage, we're going to recreate the famous Miller-Urey experiment that looked at the building blocks of life and how life may have originated. Well, you may ask, why are we doing this? What's the point? Why are we bothering this? And what's the point of DARWIN200 and why are we going to all of this effort doing this? Well, I just want to tell a very, very, very quick story, if you will allow and indulge me. I was very fortunate to make a TV series, the BBC, about the UK overseas territories. So islands and archipelagos scattered across the world that are part of the UK. There's 16 of them. And most Brits don't even know that they exist. Like Gibraltar, like the Falklands, but there's 16 in total. Each of these overseas territories has amazing conservation stories. And honestly, this is what sparked DARWIN200. There's an amazing animal called the blue iguana on the Cayman Islands. It's endemic, so it occurs nowhere else in the world. And basically what had happened was that people had settled, introduced non-native animals like dogs and cats that ate them, and roadkill and other factors. And the iguanas were massively going down. I can't remember the exact numbers, but basically about 15 years ago there was, let's say, 1,000, then the next year it was 500, then the next year it was 200. I mean, the trajectory was very, very clear. It was going to go extinct within a couple of years. But a man called Fred Burton, who's up here, basically single-handedly said that's not good enough. No one was really doing anything about this, and he stubbornly refused to allow it to fall off the cliff of extinction. He basically went out, got the last of the iguanas, built by his own money, but his own hands, built concrete breeding pits and started breeding them, and safeguarding them. And within a couple of years, the numbers had gone back up to 2,000. He managed to set up a reserve, he set up a breeding facility and put literally thousands back into the wild, managed to get an area protected, and completely the species is saved. And this story repeats itself again and again and again, especially on the UK overseas territories, because sadly they were some of the most impacted places, but equally had some of the earliest conservation laws in the world. So in many ways, many of them are like 100 or even 200 years ahead of the rest of the world. And yeah, we see this with the green turtles on Ascension Island that were virtually wiped out 100 years ago. Then hunting them was stopped, and now they've exploded back. Same again with the endemic plants of St. Helena. Goats and other herbivores were destroyed hundreds and hundreds of these endemic species. And in some cases, there's just 1 or 2 individual plants left. They were stopped just in time, and the plants have regrown, the forests have been rebuilt and replanted. Again, the cahao in Bermuda, this incredible endemic petrel, the storm petrel, it went down, if I remember correctly, to 17, and now it's back up to many, many hundred again. And of course, there's hundreds of other examples. So, the lesson of all this is that many of these problems in the world are solvable. It is within our power. You know, forests can be replanted, endangered species, as these examples show, can be pulled back from the cliff of extinction. We hear all the time about doom and gloom, and we hear all about, you know, how the impact we've had on the world, and of course we have had a massive impact. But DARWIN200 is about solutions, and conservation is about what we still have. It's not about what we've lost, it's about what we still have, and there is still time. The famous African conservationist Baba Diom said, in the end, we only conserve what we love, and we only love what we understand, and we only understand what we're taught. So that really brings us to the point of DARWIN200. We want to have a ripple effect, yes, absolutely, by creating 200 extraordinary drivers of change that will be a ripple effect for the next 50 years. But we also want to engage the global public and make people care and understand that many of these problems are solvable. Every single person matters. Every single person can contribute to a better tomorrow. It's in all of our power to make this change and make a better world. And that's precisely the point of DARWIN200. So, my last note, speaking of tomorrow, we actually have our first World's Most Exciting Classroom overview. It's just an overview of the program. So if you'd like to join us, it'll be on all our social media accounts tonight. It's at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So, without further ado, I think I'm going to hand over to Gerben from Cisco for his overview. So thank you so much for listening to me tonight.
My name is Gerben. I'm one of the captains and I'm also the ship's manager. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I already said it to the Lord Mayor. We found it extremely welcoming, the people here from the aquarium, the people in Plymouth, the people from the waterfront. Thank you very much for having us. It's an honor. We are here today because we celebrate not only the start of this very special project Stewart just told us about, but it's also to celebrate something truly extraordinary, this magnificent sailing ship. Wow, she's gone. Well, anyway, she's there. The sailing ship Oosterschelde. For over 13 years now, I have poured heart and soul into the restoration and the maintenance of that ship. It is a spectacular sailing ship. She stands now as a living monument. Is that me? Living monument for Dutch shipbuilding, for the city of Rotterdam, but even more so for our commitment to safeguarding her. It is really a special ship. To date, she's still the largest historic sailing ship ever restored in the Netherlands. And despite her age, 106 years old, she's still very much alive. She carries stories of hundreds of voyages, numerous voyages, about so many sailors, and about countless dreamers as well, Stuart. No, could say that to me, no. And we are here today because there will be more stories to tell. We are also here today because this ship, since she was restored in 1992, she sailed the distance from here to the moon and back, and there's more miles to come. And many people all around the world they know the ship, they're proud of her, they admire her, and they have very good memories of that ship. And I can tell you there will be more memories to come. But what truly makes this ship stand out is its willingness to break new ground. We've sailed places that nobody else sailed for ages. We've been to Svalbard, Spitsbergen, we've been to Japan, we've been to the Philippines, to Norway, even to Antarctica. This ship has proved herself as a pioneer, pushing the boundaries. But I would say it's an extraordinary ship, difficult word. But it's all about the crew. Because, well, I heard actually, Stewart told me, when the Beagle was about to set sail here in 1831, the captain had to postpone the voyage with a day. I heard the whole crew enjoyed life in Plymouth very much. Let's say they were all drunk, and he had to postpone the voyage. I can only say my crew is better. No, it's true. It's my crew. We all have worked really, really hard. And if you know all the efforts, all the countless hours, the passion, and everything they put in the ship to make her ready for this DARWIN200 global voyage, that is nothing but well, how do you say that? Amazing. Let me see if I can find something. And the crew, they will actually make the difference every time. Not only the past weeks, but also the weeks to come, the months to come, even the years to come. If this project turns into a big success, and I'm sure it will, then it will be the success of the crew. Give them a little applause if you want. We're about to set sail in a few days. We do so with a purpose this time, with a purpose that goes beyond the mere act of navigation. Firstly, always firstly for me, our journey serves as a beacon to draw attention to this ship, to this monumental ship. With every creak of the rigging, with every gust that fills her sails, we hope to remind everyone of the invaluable importance of preserving our maritime heritage. Because that's what it is. But the ship is really a masterpiece of craftsmanship. It's in the small details, it's history, and it's our duty to ensure that she lives on, not only for us, but also for generations to come. And secondly, this voyage is dedicated to training the 200 young men and women that will maybe pick up what we have dropped. Our ship is a classroom, a laboratory, and a stage for lessons that reach beyond the classroom, beyond the textbooks. We will visit the very ports that Charles Darwin visited, and we will, make connections with local NGOs and communities along the way. Through the activities that we will do, the experiences that we will have, we will unfold during this voyage. We hope to inspire hundreds, thousands, and perhaps even hundreds of thousands young minds, not necessarily young people, but young minds. And we want to sort of, ignite a fire for passion, the passion for history, for exploring, and of course for the vital importance of environmental stewardship. It's easy to lose sight of the lessons history has to offer. As we sail across the oceans, we'll visit distant shores. We're not just sailors. What is that? I'll stop in a minute. We are united by the common purpose to preserve, to educate, and to inspire. So to you all here, I wish to say, please support us with this adventure. Sail with us, join us on the media channels, visit our website, and support us with your enthusiasm. Because this time, for this voyage, the ship not only carries, let's say, the weight of history around the world, but also the promise of a better future. For now, I wish Oosterschelde, the crew, a safe voyage, fair winds, following seas, as they say. And to you all, I would say, I hope to see you all back in Falmouth in 2025. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I'd like to start off by giving a massive, massive welcome to all of you here at the National Marine Aquarium. My name's Becky and I'm really, really proud to lead our world-renowned schools team here at the NMA. Now you're going to have to forgive me because normally when I'm in this room with a microphone in my hand, it's because I am facing hundreds of school children. So I'm going to fight my natural instincts, and I'm not going to ask you for a rousing good morning. I'm not going to ask you what your favourite marine creatures are. Instead, I'm going to tell you what's happening here at the National Marine Aquarium, why you're all here, and how it links to this wonderful project. So the Ocean Conservation Trust is obviously an ocean conservation charity, and at the heart of our mission, at the heart of our values is education. We know that the next generation are going to be instrumental in the health of our ocean. And so we provide educational and experiential opportunities. We want to influence perceptions of and relationships with the ocean because we want to inspire young people to find their own voice, to find their own way to protect the ocean. To give you a little bit of an overview, we welcome through our schools programme around and about 30,000 children annually through these doors. We offer a variety of national curriculum subjects, all delivered through the lens of ocean literacy. I'm hoping that you'll all agree with me that this aquarium is a beautiful and inspirational backdrop for our programme, and it's a wonderful place for us to be based, but we go outside sometimes as well. We're lucky enough to be able to deliver our programme on the shores of Plymouth Sound, which is the country's first ever national marine park, which is so exciting. We go into, thank you, we go into classrooms as well, which is so important, delivering our programme for those of whom the barriers of school trips are just too much to overcome. Thanks to COVID, something good came out of it. We were able to really, really empower our virtual programme, and we've been able to take our message across the entire world. We've gone as far as India and Canada, which is really, really exciting. One of the things that we're most proud of out of our programme is our annual STEM Fest. It's an event that we've been running every year since 2011, and every one of those years we've invited up to 12,000 students to come into this building and look at real-world ocean-based problems and try and solve them using science, technology, engineering and maths. And you might be wondering what all of this has to do with this evening and this project, why you're all here. And I'm really, really excited to announce that this year's STEM Fest, the 2023 offering, is going to be entirely inspired by the DARWIN200 project. We are going to bring the journey of HMS Beagle, all of the amazing discoveries that Darwin made along the way, to life. And it's genuinely a privilege because we're going to be able to show young people that this incredibly inspiring man and this incredibly important voyage that he went on started here in this city where they live. And it's going to be even more relevant because not only are we going to be looking back at the history of the Beagle, we're going to be looking to the future with the, I'm so sorry to any Dutch people in the house, Oosterschelde? Yeah? We're going to be following the journey. We're going to learn how to pronounce it properly along the way. So we're going to be following the journey of the Oosterschelde and also of those amazing Darwin leaders. We are going to have 2 of our team members on the boat for some of the journey, which means we can give a first-hand look of life on the boat. And we've also got 2 of our wonderful husbandry team, Heather and Isla, who's here tonight somewhere. They are going to be doing some really, really exciting projects in Fernando, looking at octopuses and coral reefs, and we're going to be following their journey. STEMfest is really, really important. For all the participants, they get so much experiences, skills, memories that come out of it. And it grows them not just as conservationists, but as young people as well. And we encourage them after STEMfest to go out and become conservation leaders themselves. We encourage them to do things like bio-blitzes in their local school grounds, enhancing nature, but also increasing their own awareness and their own empathy for the biodiversity that's just on their doorstep. And that way, it's not just people, but it's nature who benefit from this amazing, amazing project. The schools team aren't the only ones inspired by it. Our public team are also getting involved. They're going to be doing social media streams. They're going to be doing live streams directly into the aquarium. They're going to be hosting Q&A. So we're really going to be able to spread our message far and wide. The DARWIN200 project has given us an opportunity to connect not just around the country, but around the globe. Because everyone, everywhere is connected to the ocean. And that's what we're all about here at the Ocean Conservation Trust. We're about building connections. The health of the ocean is going to require global thinking, and it's going to require global solutions. So being able to work with the DARWIN200 project, we're going to be able to inspire and we're going to be able to empower the next generation of global ocean advocates to think ocean. So for that, I want to say a really, really big thank you for all the opportunities that have come up, and a big thank you for everyone for coming here and participating in whatever way you can. Thank
you. Sorry, you've got me again. So very quickly, I want to just really quickly tell you about the man who inspired this voyage, Charles Darwin. Many people remember Darwin as that crusty old guy with a beard that wrote a book on evolution, and that's the picture that most people have of him, and that's the only thing that often many people know of him. But he wasn't just an old guy that wrote a book on evolution. He studied, he explored, he discovered pretty much everything you can imagine, from the theory of how plants eat animals, carnivorous plants, to how mountains form, to the formation of atolls, to how earthworms create soil in the world around us, and countless other things. This man literally changed the world with his mind, his beautiful mind. However, that said, that image that we have of him was absolutely, completely different to the man that was here in Plymouth in 1831. I think it was mentioned in an earlier talk. He was just 22 years old, and he wasn't some crusty old guy with a beard. He was a 22-year-old Indiana Jones character. He climbed mountains, he swam in reefs, he rode with the gauchos, he ate an armadillo for breakfast. He had all of these incredible adventures. And very, very quickly, if you'll allow me, I'll tell you a very brief overview of his personal story, because he is not what you might imagine him to be. He was born on the 12th of February in 1809 in Shrewsbury. Sadly, his mother passed away in 1817, and his father, Robert Darwin, who was a wealthy physician, doctor, raised him. As is so often the case in history, his childhood gave very, very little indication of his potential. In fact, kind of the opposite. He attended Shrewsbury School from 1818 to 1825, but he hated it. He described his studies as narrow and classical. He later wrote, "All my teachers thought I was a very ordinary boy, rather below the intellectual grade." In 1825, he was actually removed from school because his time was regarded as unsuccessful and a waste of time, and he spent the summer of 1825 accompanying his father on the doctor's rounds. This led him to be sent to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland to study medicine, but he hated the sight of blood and operations, and actually, because this was before chloroform, he wrote how it haunted the rest of his life. So he actually dropped out. He was a dropout from university. He quit it without a degree. His father was really disappointed with his progress and thought he was idle and wasting his life. Robert, his father, said to him, "You have no other interests apart from shooting and catching rats, and you're going to bring shame upon yourself and your whole family." In an incredibly ironic twist, at this point, because his father just didn't know what to do with him, he sent him to Cambridge to study divinity, and he was destined to go into the church as a country parson, which was often the case for aristocracy. They'd send the child that they didn't really know what career they'd have to do that. But even at Cambridge, studying philosophy, Darwin wasn't exactly the ideal student. He later wrote how he spent much of his time with low-minded men and drunk rather too much. With a group of his friends, he joined and set up something called the Glutton Club, whose mission was to meet weekly to eat birds and beasts which had before been unknown to the human palate. As a Glutton Club member, he ate Norfolk eels, he ate hawks, he ate bitterns, he ate brown owls, but the owls apparently were so indescribable that the club seemed to disband pretty quickly soon afterwards and gave up their mission, so it probably wasn't so good. These skills nevertheless served him very, very well on the voyage of the Beagle, because he had to eat and ate a lot of exotic animals, from armadillos to giant tortoises to iguanas, pumas, and even rheas, which are like the equivalent of ostriches in South America. In fact, in December 1833, while he's at Port Desire, one of the ship's crew shot a rhea and dragged it on board the Beagle. And while they were eating the rhea for Christmas dinner, Darwin realised it was a new species. So he actually collected all the bones. Apparently, that's the type specimen of Rhea darwinii. But his passion for nature led him to Professor Henslow, and this changed his life and in many ways changed the world. Henslow informed him of a voyage around the world that was looking for an opening for a naturalist, and the voyage was captained by Captain Fitzroy. It's just amazing to think how young these men were. As you've already heard, Darwin was 22, but Captain Fitzroy, who had already undertaken a voyage earlier, was just 25. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, Gerben, if you gave your ship to a 25-year-old and say, there you go, good luck, sail around the world. I know, certainly for myself, I don't think I could do it at 25, or rather... Anyway, Darwin was electrified with excitement and got down to Plymouth here. His father was less than impressed. When he first checked out the ship, Darwin was so excited, but his father originally wouldn't let him go on it. He said he thought it was just nothing but a schoolboy adventure, and you'd just waste more time, and he needed a career, he needed a job, basically. Luckily, Charles was really close to his uncle Josiah Wedgwood of the famous pottery firm, and Josiah saw something very special in Charles Darwin, and managed to persuade his father, who finally agreed. But even that wasn't the end of the story. Darwin went to meet Captain Fitzroy, and Fitzroy believed in the Victorian idea of physiognomy, which is how your characteristics indicate your personality. So someone with a big brow might be thought to be intelligent or whatever. And Darwin had apparently a nose that implied that he wouldn't have sufficient energy and determination. So Fitzroy very, very nearly rejected him. Anyway, I mention all this because many people think it was Darwin's great journey around the world, it was all about him, but it really wasn't. He came pretty much at the last minute as a passenger, basically, to study wildlife, but he was pretty much incidental, he just came on it. Anyway, flash forward a few months, and Darwin is here in Plymouth. He cannot put into words how excited he is. We've all grown up and live in a world where we see exotic animals on TV or have palm trees in our back gardens or in pot plants, but Darwin had only seen them in drawings, and as a born naturalist, as a passionate naturalist, he just couldn't wait to get to the tropics and see this. He actually had heart palpitations here in Plymouth. He was so excited, but wrote how he refused to tell his doctor for fear of being not allowed to go, so he kept that a secret. Anyway, he set sail, as you've heard, finally, after the crew got drunk, and then they couldn't leave on Christmas Day, so they had to eventually leave on the 27th, and sailed off into the history books, and changed the world, again, with his mind. Not just in terms of evolution, but a rainbow of incredible discoveries. And honestly, there probably isn't another person in human history that had such a massive impact on scientific thinking. Just the theory of evolution alone has been described as the greatest single thought in the history of human thinking. So this incredible man that changed the world with his mind, and still to this day we have reverberations of that, he's the inspiration for our journey. And it really goes to show Darwin changed the world with his mind. It makes you think what we could do if we change the future that we ourselves could build with our minds, and what we could do if we change the world and make it a better place. So that's a little overview of Darwin and the reason why he inspired our project, and hopefully will be the inspiration for going forward, changing the world. Thank you so much. our last talk tonight is by the wonderful Andrew Fox. So I'll just pass over. Thank you.
Hello. Well, thank you everyone. I'm really delighted that I'm the last one to speak, so you know that once I'm finished we can recharge at the bar, which is I think important to all of us. So I've made some notes here so I don't forget anybody, but I wanted to just say a few words about DARWIN200, which is a complex global project, hopefully the first of many, and which has dozens of moving parts, as you can imagine. Starting with our 2 test voyages that we did in 2020 and 21 around Britain. The eventual budget of the voyage is expected to be around about £5 million. We're proudly British, as was Darwin, but we're also an outward-looking international venture. Our own team, the ship, as you've heard, our Darwin leaders, our supporters, our passengers, and soon millions of members of the DARWIN200 community around the world online are all from across the globe, all curious and interested in solutions to global challenges to our planet that need attention. We have already added a splash of Anglo-Saxon quirkiness, and there's more to come. Do meet tonight Joe Whale, the talented young doodle boy from Darwin's hometown of Shrewsbury, and see his canvas. It's over there right now. And the family and Joe are over here. If you're lucky, he might let you do a selfie with him later on. Then there's a film about how the doodle was created, which I was present for. It was incredible. I really recommend that. So also today we announced on Plymouth Hoe that the official sport of the DARWIN200 voyage, can any of you guess? No? Barnes bowling. It's Elizabethan bowling on a diagonal. I'm sure you're all familiar with that, but you'll learn a lot more over the next 2 years about that. Soon half of UK primary schools will be engaging with DARWIN200, and 100 weeks, as you heard from Stewart, of the world's most exciting classroom through the Don Hanson Schools program, with its thousands of free Hanson boxes that go across the world to the UK and Australia and the US, free books for primary schools. Project champion Stewart has the vision, the passion, the knowledge, experience, and the contacts. I'm more the grey man who deals with the financial side of things, and therefore I'd like to say a few words about that, if I may. We have been supported in preparing for the last few years to get to where we are today, which I would describe as the end of the beginning, by, in particular, the Don Hanson Charitable Foundation and Don Hanson's company, Credit Force. The family of projects it has, in particular, Telco IMC, based in Chelmsford. And we have Mark Stewart, its founder and chief executive, here tonight over there. Thank you, Mark. I'd also like to thank Don Hanson, who's no longer with us, but hopefully looking down with pride and pleasure at this event tonight. And also Simon Leary, the Credit Force board. And I'd also like to thank someone you may have heard of, Matt Ridley, Damon DeLaslo, and Robert and Miley Hefner in the States. They've all been very helpful to us, and we're very grateful. As for your help here tonight, there are a few things we're looking for. We're looking for further supporters for the project generally, and we're also looking in particular for sponsors who get involved in backing a particular individual Darwin leader. Of the 200 Darwin leaders, some are still as yet unsponsored, and that's something we can talk about. If you have ideas, we'd like to hear about that. You can help also by spreading the word, joining the DARWIN200 community, signing up to our YouTube channel, following what we're doing, and visiting us at darwin200.com shop to see what of our beautiful branded merchandise you desperately need when you're sitting there watching your YouTube programs. Each of the Darwin leaders we've organized to have 3 videos made by volunteer video people that we send down to wherever they are in the ports which we visit, and those things, those videos are all going to be online, and they're going to be incredible. We also have, if you look at the, interestingly, in the shark tank area, which I strongly recommend, we also have some of the examples of the APS artworks. We have the classic, which is covering the whole 2 years. We have legs, which cover a particular leg from one port to another, and then we also have one for each port, where you can see what the Darwin leaders were up to when they were there. Merchandise supports our project, and 10% of the APS artwork proceeds goes to selected charities that we will name. You'll be very supportive of those. They're excellent charities. Stewart has assembled an incredible team to realize the dream you've heard about tonight. And I'd like tonight to recognize some of the people involved. Captain Gerben Nab, thank you. You've heard from him today. You can hear his passion. He absolutely loves this beautiful ship, and we all do. And it's moored nearby in Sutton Harbour. I really recommend you have a look. It's incredible. And his team. Patrons, Dr. Jane Goodall and Dr. Sylvia Earle, and supporter, Dr. Sarah Darwin. Rolf and Eduardo, who manage the Darwin Leader program, supported by Philippe. Sophie on marketing and comms. Larissa and Alice on PR. Rodri and Tom, who are filming us now. Richard, Rommel, Roderick, Carolina and Natasha on the commercial team. Joe Grabowski of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, who's been helping with the educational program, and he also secured our Starlink communications so that we have contact with the ship at all times, anywhere in the world, which is fantastic. Thank you, Joe. Also, we have Grant and Nadia, our initial researchers. We have Helena Fox and Phil Thorne, who have managed the APS program with the artworks. And the Ocean Conservation Trust, who are our kind hosts here tonight at the National Marine Aquarium. On this panel here, we have what we call informally the Glory Board. It's not enormous, but it got us to where we are today. When we meet, hopefully in a couple of years' time in Plymouth, when we want to talk about what we've achieved over the last 2 years, I hope we're going to need a much bigger glory board for all the people who've been involved in helping us. This is the glory board. And because he is so modest, and because it must be said, I think an enormous round of applause needs to go to Stewart, because it's his idea, it's his brainchild, he is a mad genius, and he works about 28 hours a day. I can attest to that. So come on up here, let's give you the clap. You deserve it.
Honestly, this project wouldn't have happened without Andrew. So I might have had the idea, but Andrew was the one that made it happen. So thank you beyond words for making this dream reality. So can we have one final clap for Andrew? Well, without further ado, Prosecco is being served. I think I can hear the corks popping now. So I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We'll all be here to answer any questions or offer any information that you may need. So thank you again so much for being part of our wonderful send-off party. Thank you.